Appearances versus reality. All these characters at this point in their lives have become so good at lying that they don't even notice when they're doing it. Lying has put Rue in the most difficult situation of her life. Cassie is willing to lie and do whatever it takes to get online attention, and then you have someone like Nate who's lied to himself in thinking that he's a good guy. Now, as they say, men lie, women lie, but numbers don't. But I'm not gonna lie because I thought this episode was...
You like surprises?
I do.
Okay.
What is going on, everybody, and welcome back to my channel. Today we are taking a deep dive into Euphoria Season 3, Episode 4. We're talking about Rue working with the feds, Cassie goes viral, and Jules puts Lexi's job at risk, and shots were fired. Let's go ahead and break down all the deeper meanings from all the various scenes, break down the themes, and what we can expect next after that ending. Full spoilers ahead. We pick up right where the chaos left off as Rue is in the back of a DEA car. We can see it in her eyes as she's trying to come up with a lie. The agents are looking at her car and Rue insists that it is clean. She's staring right at them, swearing up and down, but we know Rue. She's addicted to lying. It's like a reflex now. She doesn't even realize she's doing it until the words are already out of her mouth. But then the K9 finds something in the trunk and she gets processed. Now during the interrogation, they build up to only have found a little bit of weed. At least that's how they start this conversation. They begin to lean on her, asking her about her day at the wedding, but then eventually they ask about Lori. But Rue being Rue tries to play dumb, claiming to barely knowing Lori, and when Mexico's brought up, she acts as though she's never heard of Mexico, let alone has ever been there. But we know that's a lie, and they prove she's lying by showing a picture of Rue in Mexico meeting with a member of a cartel. Now this isn't just a simple possession charge anymore. Lying to federal agents is a 5-year ticket to a federal prison. Rue's already in trouble even without spilling the beans on her true relationship with Lori.
This is 20 years in federal prison.
And federal inmates don't get parole.
We know who you work for and what you've been doing.
We know the fentanyl you've trafficked has killed people. For each death we can link to you, it's an additional 20 years.
Yeah, things are not looking good for our girl Rue. Looks like all those actions have finally caught up to her and she's finally facing some serious consequences. As I predicted in my trailer breakdown last week, Rue is given 2 options: go to federal prison or become an informant. Now from here they switch out the actual drugs that they found on Rue and they replace them with sugar pills and laxatives. They tell Rue to lay low until further instructions.
If you want to turn a curse into a blessing, I would say this is your opportunity.
Now it's important to note that Alamo wasn't mentioned once in that interrogation scene. All they seem to be focused on is Rue's connection with Lori, at least for now. Now we see them put an app on Rue's phone that acts as a bug that allows them to record any valuable information that's going to help their case, and the name is under Rue's mom's phone. Now back at the Silver Slipper, Rue has to play it cool and put a smile on for Alamo, who cryptically explains their relationship with Lori is now officially over. Now this week's episode title is mentioned here, that being Kitty Likes to Dance, as we meet a new dancer by the name of Kitty from Kansas who's Angel's replacement. As we see how Alamo officially inducts a new dancer by taking them to the back and having them show him their best moves. Meanwhile, Rue hands over the fake drugs to Eddie, and again, she has to keep her poker face on and act normal. Now, the theme early on within these scenes isn't just about drugs, it's about the cost of freedom. Rue is now serving as a double agent and a ghost in her own life. She's now traded her addiction for substances for an addiction to survival, and as I've said at the start of this season, I don't know if she's gonna make it out of this in one piece. Now check it in with our favorite toxic newlyweds, Nate and Cassie. Nate was able to reattach his toe and he sees it as a metaphor. He tells Cassie that when you break something, you have to pick up the pieces. To him, the toe represents their relationship. He's broken, she's broken, but he thinks that they just need to stitch it back together and keep it moving. Now that the truth about Nate's finances and his scamming business was put on Front Street last week, we see Cassie calls him out for everything he built being a lie, including their relationship. Now Nate reveals that he owes Naz about $1 million in debt, but he wants Cassie to relax and have faith in him that he'll fix things, but Cassie's at the point where she realizes that their fairy tale is over. As she finishes cleaning his wounds and walks away, Cassie called the one person that she knew can help her in this situation, and that person is Maddy. Now we see Cassie packs her bags and she says that she's ready to work. Now I see Cassie wanting to do this obviously for herself, but also doing this for her husband in a relationship as well. Remember Cassie's past from her backstory from season 1. It showed us her relationship with her dad and how it's not so easy for her to give up on the men in her life, so I feel like she's willing to fight for this relationship despite all the red flags. Now, in order to get things going, Maddie takes Cassie to a salon to completely change her look.
It's to take her from the suburbs to the city.
Cool. Again, looking at her history, she's likely doing this to become a version of the woman that can help Nate fix his mess. Now back at Jules, she gets a call from Lexi as she offers Jules what could have been a massive career-defining opportunity. Jules is tasked with recreating George's Seurat's Sunday at a Park for Patty's show LA Nights, as millions of eyes would be seeing her art for the first time. Now this brings us to a major theme of this episode. The parallels between Maddie and Lexi helping Cassie and Jules. Now on the surface, as we know, Maddie and Lexi look like they've made it in Hollywood. But as we know, Maddie is still struggling financially and Lexi seems to only be focused on work and has zero personal life. But then you look at Jules and Cassie. From the outside, Jules appears to have all her dreams come true, but it comes at a cost for being bought. Then you have Cassie, having her wedding and her dream guy, but we know that none of that is entirely true. Again, this is an example of characters who appear to be in a good spot, but looks are definitely deceiving. Now, Jules completes the piece, and let's just say it doesn't quite fit the look that they were going for, as she decides to give them her full artistic expression. And that expression includes about 14 penises, which isn't what Patty and her production team wanted. Now they bring Jules in, and for some reason, Lexi brings up Jules being trans as her possible reason for her artistic decision, which to me felt odd and out of place and out of pocket for Lexi to say, but the real issue stems from that the network has censorship, which is understandable in my opinion. Now they suggest adding more clothes and even adding bread to fit the theme, as Jules says it'll take a couple hours to make those changes, but ultimately they decide to push a scene back to the following week. Now, this mishap will cost the studio about $56,000 in shooting time, but in reality, it's about a $191,000 loss. We know Lexi has been known to play by the book, and we can see how this situation has definitely gotten to her. Now back to Jules, she takes the notes, covers up the whole thing in red and orange paint, and draws one large penis in the center of the piece and just walks away. Now look, I said it last week, I'm a big fan of Jules, but I even have to admit that this felt reckless. I don't know, man. I just feel like Jules was out of pocket. Like, she knew, obviously, Lexi brought her in for this opportunity. And then for her to kind of do like a screw you to the studio, knowing that this could cost Lexi her entire career if she makes another mistake, just felt so like odd to me. And I just don't know where Jules is coming from. I'm really trying to wrap my mind around why Jules did that. Was it like artistic integrity, or was it self-sabotage, which we've seen Jules do in the past, but this time around, again, where is this stemming from? Does it have anything to do with her new relationship with Ellis, or now being in contact again with Rue? Does she feel like she can't fully express herself in the situation without compromising herself, or is it something else entirely? Again, I normally stand behind my girl's Jules, but not this time around, so let me know in the comments below, what do you all think Jules' intentions were with that scene? Meanwhile, with the Dollar Tree hustle and flow crew of Lori's, we see her bury her bird as Wayne and Harley discuss payback against Alamo. Now during this, Rue is given orders to set up a new transaction between Alamo and Lori, but clearly after the pigs and now a dead bird, the task is damn near impossible to Rue to make happen. Now, obviously knowing this, Rue suggests that she get a new dealer involved instead of Lori. So to clarify from what I was talking about earlier, it's clear that Alamo is actually on their radar as well. So the DEA see it as like they're killing two birds with one stone with having Rue taking both operations down. Now we see that Cassie is staying with Lexi for a bit as she's taking new photos of herself. Now obviously Lexi isn't on board with her sister commodifying her own body online, as Maddy defends the grind, citing Bad Baby as the golden standard for online profit.
Gucci flip-flops, fake it, hit your bitch and massage.
Now this next scene I found to be very interesting. I know there's been a lot of online rumors about the off-screen beef between Zendaya and Sydney Sweeney, and because of that, Zendaya refused to be in scenes with her for this season. Now if the rumor is to be true, well, either this scene was heavily edited to make it seem like they were in the same area, or they just made it happen. As we see while Cassie's taking pictures of herself, we see Rue is just a few inches away from her and she asks Maddy to help her find some drugs, not for her, but for her boss, which is roping Maddy into her situation.
What is wrong with you people? You're looking for drugs, you're selling your body on your porn site, and You're like some internet pimp, Dad. And it's pathetic. And it's really disturbing.
Now, we end up seeing Cassie ends up pawning off her wedding ring in order for her to buy her own spot in the same complex as Lexi, as she completes her pursuits of fame and fortune masked as independence. Now, to backtrack a little bit, even though we saw Maddie saying that she didn't feel comfortable helping Rue get drugs, I do wonder if Rue will eventually convince her and, again, getting Maddie roped into her madness. Now, if the online photos that leaked online a couple weeks ago are true, we are going to be seeing Maddie being introduced to someone that is working closely with Rue, and things are about to get really interesting. Now, during all this, let's catch up with Nate. He's at the zoning commission fighting for his life to get this retirement community project approved. He's on his last leg, and in an odd move, Nate recites a Bible verse trying to frame his development as a holy mission. But as he's denied, he won't walk away. Nate begins to break down and calls out one of the members by the name of Bill, and he embarrasses himself by offering to beg and plead on his knees. Now, for those that's been questioning, who is this man? This isn't the Nate of old. Well, we finally know why he's been acting this way in the last few weeks. He screams that he's trying to do something good to wash away his sins of his past. He's desperate to prove that he isn't the monster everyone knows him to be, and this development project for the elderly is a good thing for them and the world, and he cannot be bad. But that doesn't work, as the motion remains to be denied as Nate cries his trying to do good eyes out. Now let's talk about Mr. Nate the Snake. My question is, I want to know in the comments below, do you all think he was lying? Again, this episode thrives on the lies of the season. Every character thinks they've changed. Cassie thinks her online brand is empowerment. Nate thinks a retirement home can erase his history of violence. Rue thinks she can navigate the underworld without falling back into the abyss. But they're all just masking deep-seated issues with temporary materialistic fixes. They're buying their way into lives that don't actually exist. They're running towards fame and good deeds to avoid the internal work. They've changed the packaging, but the context under the hood remains just as broken. So to bring it back to Nate, again, do you all feel he's actually seeking redemption, or is he just looking for a new way to navigate his narrative? Now back with Rue, who's playing a card game in Alamo's as she's recording a conversation about finding a new dealer. Now, Alamo isn't focused on the cards, but he senses something's off. He can see that Rue is sweating, trying to maintain a poker face, but Alamo flips the script. He calls her a rat in front of everyone, but not in the snitching sense, but in the sense that he knows that she's using again. He warns Rue that her using hard drugs again is a death sentence, but we see Rue wins the game as she beats Bishop. Now, was Rue's poker face actually working, or is this victory just a foreshadowing of her inevitable fall? Now, there was a lot of fun subtext within this scene, but again, I feel like Alamo's warning about her death seems very important to what may come of Rue at some point this season. Now, it's been a few weeks since we last saw Angel, and it appears that was the last time we saw her. According to Magic, Angel ran away from rehab and she's disappeared, which is code for Alamo took care of the problem. Now, Kitty has officially replaced her, and the clock is ticking for Rue to find a new source to replace Lori. Now, back with Maddie and Cassie, who's now wearing her best outfit for this mega influencer party by the name of Brandon. Now, Cassie's mission is crystal clear. Snag a video with Brandon for his massive following. But Maddie makes things very clear to not cross this line. Use your body to get his attention, but don't give your body to him. Cross that line and she loses her strategic advantage and the entire point of using him. Now, what caught my attention here was how Cassie's journey at this party was cut in between the scenes of the new dancer Kitty, who is currently in a private dancing room surrounded by a room full of men. Maddie and Alamo have made it clear to making money off men by any means necessary, which is echoed through both narratives. We watch these two women essentially selling versions of themselves to these men. Cassie with her calculated allure dancing with another girl to grab Brandon's eye, while Kitty, as the title suggests, Kitty likes to dance, comes full circle in this moment as she endures a train being ran on her, all while Rue observes on the monitor. This was a brutal parallel, and it served as a powerful commentary on expectation in different forms. Both are performing, both are seeking attention and validation, and both are under pressure to deliver in different ways. Now, I thought that we saw the last of this particular character, but surprise, surprise, we get the return of Caitlin, who we remember as Maddie's first online client from episode 2. Now we see Cassie, who's fully committed to this Valley Girl accent and this Valley Girl persona to fit in, as she leaves to go to a quieter area with Caitlin and Brandon to do some drugs. Now it's here that we get a really funny callback from Maddie as she pulls her season 2 premiere move, which was her banging on the door for Cassie. But this time around, things are much different as she makes sure that Cassie stays in character. Now we see Cassie offers to do coke on Caitlin's body first. Now, it's clear that both women are here for the same reasons, and they're now one-upping each other as Cassie quickly ups the ante by getting Brandon to snort coke near her kitty cat. Now, we watch this game of tug-of-war of Brandon's attention as Cassie ultimately wins as Caitlin stumbles off to throw up. Now, just as Cassie looks to be giving up her body, we see Maddie finally comes in the room and the mission is accomplished as the video is secured. Cassie has their attention now, and the real challenge begins, which is keeping it. I can't lie, man, seeing Cassie's descent into this calculated manipulation is both thrilling and deeply unsettling at the same time, because in our reality, a lot of creators out there in this world do this exact same thing. Meanwhile, back at the club, Rue is checking on Kitty, helping her clean up and asking her if she's being forced to do what she just did. As Kitty, with a look of detachment, claims that she's good and she likes what she does. Now, out comes Magic out of one of the stalls, and she gives this look that is clear that she and Rue are not friends. Now, Eddie has Rue's phone, and Magic seizes his opportunity and spills the intel by telling him that Rue asked Kitty if she was forced to do what she does for a living, and it's clear that that is a conflict of interest for Rue's job. Now, within all this chaos going on, Rue's mom calls, aka the DEA calls. Now, Rue is forced to answer right in front of Eddie and Magic, and the DEA agents tell her that she's been compromised by Magic and she needs to find a way to discard her. The tension in this scene was captured so well as we see the fighting between Rue and Magic begin. And man, talk about perfect timing. Just as the internal conflict explodes, Wayne and Harley arrive and they have their guns drawn. They burst into Eddie's office, gun to his head, demanding he opens the safe. Now, Eddie hesitates, even though they threaten to kill Rue and Magic, and he still doesn't listen, and he ultimately takes a shot in the stomach. But once they point the gun towards his manly area, we see Eddie breaks, and he ultimately opens the safe, and they get the jackpot they were looking for. As Wayne and Harley grab the money and make their escape with the worst getaway driver of all time. In the aftermath, we end the episode with Rue calling Bishop and she tells him the whole situation. They try to look for plate numbers, but they aren't there. But we see Magic spots a woman in the front seat of the getaway, and it's Faye. And the moment Bishop hears that, he knows that this wasn't some random robbery. This was clearly Lori getting her revenge for the bird, hitting Alamo where it hurts him the most, and that's his pocket. Listen, man, I said it last week and I'll say it again. I'm really having fun with the insanity of this season so far. Yes, there's obviously flaws with some of the characteristics, some of the creative choices so far, but I will say that this to me was the best episode of the season so far. And I also will say Hans Zimmer's score, who again, that's my GOAT. He's my favorite composer when it comes to film, but I have not liked his score so far this season. But I say all that to say this, I thought Hans Zimmer's score finally fit within the tone and the mood and how it fit into the scenes. It didn't take me out of the scenes because again, his score is finally coming together and is finally kind of making sense in the context of what we're getting in the show so far. I thought this episode definitely heightened the stakes and also the character development. Cassie's deep dive into pure ambition has been captivating so far. The parallel between her and Kitty was very interesting, and the commentary on how some women in today's society navigate and survive in a world that often demands they sell themselves has really been working for me, especially in this episode. We, of course, have Rue, who is caught in this impossible bind, and she's teetering on the edge of full exposure, forced to make life or death decisions. And we have what's going on with Nate and what's going on with Jules, obviously. And the heist to me was just a cherry on top of what, again, I consider to be a very entertaining episode of Euphoria. So what's next? Will Nate just fully rely on Cassie to fix his problems, or will he find another scam to pay off his debts? What's going on with Jules, and what's her reasonings for what happened with Lexi? Now, obviously, Maddie seems to have a plan set out for Cassie, but the question is, how far is Cassie willing to go? And lastly, we got everything going on with the DEA and Rue, plus the war between Alamo and Lori. And one more thing I'll end with, is it possible that maybe the DEA have another informant already in place, and could that be Kitty? Alrighty, y'all, that will conclude my breakdown of Euphoria Season 3, Episode 4. Now to the most important question I have for you all. What did you all think of this episode? What storyline caught your attention the most? What worked the most in this episode for you as far as the themes and how they're playing with the themes of lies and whatnot? What deeper meanings you all take away? What didn't you like about this episode? Let's talk about it all in the comments below, and also share your predictions for what you all hope to see in the weeks ahead. Thank you all for watching or listening to this week's breakdown. Now, if you all have made it to this point in the breakdown, I can't thank you enough for the continued support. If you all are still here, do me a favor, put in the comments right now, #Kitty. Now, if you all are watching this on YouTube, I appreciate my YouTube supporters out there. Please consider liking this video. And when you hit the like button, there's a hype button that pops up on the video. And when you hit the hype button, it allows this video to hit new viewers, which, speaking of new viewers, consider sharing this video, man. Share this to anyone and everyone you know that loves talking about the show just as much as we do. And last but not least, consider sticking around by subscribing to the channel today. Now, for my podcast listeners out there, I appreciate you all, whether that's Apple or Spotify or wherever you all get your podcast from. Do me a favor, leave your thoughts of this episode in the comments below and consider following the podcast. And I would love it if you all can leave me a 5-star review. Alrighty, y'all. Thank you so much for the support. I hope you all enjoyed today's breakdown. We will be back next week, but in between then and now, I want to thank you. I hope you all remember that you all are awesome. Stay safe, and I'll see you on the next breakdown.